Hi everyone, this is Helloangel.design. Today we are making a very simple dress with bow and tail. It's a step-by-step tutorial. Please watch the video until the end so that you know how I stitch the bow on the dress. And there are so many ways that you can place your bow. You don't have to place it right here. There are so many positions that you can place your bow. Please support us by subscribing, thumbs up on our video, share our video, comment down below. A lot of you are watching our video and you don't share the video. Please do share the video and like the video. It is very important. Liking the video, you're not paying anything. It's just for you to touch that button and press like. Yeah, I'm going to take you step by step on how to achieve this dressmaking, and let's get started. I have cut out my fabric. I'm using this beautiful tie-dye fabric that I bought in Ghana in 2023. It's very beautiful. This fabric comes with two combinations. I will show you the other combination of the fabric, which I have already made the same style that I'm going to show you guys how to make today. I'll make a dress from that design of the fabric, because when you buy a tie-dye fabric always come with two design, so you can either make the both combination or you can make them separately. But this time I make separately and I also make combination. I'll be showing you guys on the video. So I have already cut out my fabric. Because we are making a very simple style today, I go ahead and cut out my fabric. If I'm adjusting a pattern paper, then I can take you through how to adjust your pattern paper, place it on your fabric and cut it out. This is for my bow right here in the tie. I have cut it out and I will tell you the measurement later. And this is my top dress and the lining, and this is my back top dress and the lining. When you cut your back top dress, make sure to add your zipper seam allowance. My zipper seam allowance is always 1.5 centimeter. I have also cut out my skirt, both the back and the front, and I've also cut out my lining. When I cut my lining is 2.5 centimeters shorter than my made fabric, because I don't want my lining to be visible once I am done stitching the dress. So this is how I cut my fabric, and let's put the dress together. First thing that you have to do, you open the front of your made fabric, you take the back pieces, make sure that both front fabric are facing each other. You are going to put the both shoulder seam of the top dress together. Once you put them together, you can take your pin and pin it all around. Once you have done that, take it to your sewing machine and stitch it with 1 centimeter seam allowance. Depends on the seam allowance that you add on your fabric. You stitch the shoulder seam together. And once you have done that, you also take your lining, put the both shoulder seam together and stitch the shoulder seam with your seam allowance. My seam allowance is 1 centimeter. So I will take it to my sewing machine and I stitch it with 1 centimeter seam allowance. Once you have done that, you take your skirt. This is my made skirt and this is the front of my skirt. Your front of your made skirt is always on fold. So you take the back pieces, you're going to put them together. You're putting the both side seam of the fabric together. You stitch it with your seam allowance. My seam allowance is 1 centimeter. And you come down to this other side, put the side seam together and stitch it with your 1 centimeter seam allowance. Once you have done that, take it to your overlocker, overlock the both raw edges. And once you have done stitching your made fabric together, you are going to also stitch your lining together. This is my lining. I will take the back pieces and I'm going to put the side seam together and I will stitch it with my 1 centimeter seam allowance. And I will also come down to this other side. I will repeat the same process, stitch it with my 1 centimeter seam allowance. Once I am done with that, I will take it to my overlocker and overlock the raw edges. I have stitched the shoulder seam of my top dress, and I take it to my ironing board. I just press the seam apart. I did the same thing with the lining. Take it to my ironing board and I press the seam apart. What I'm going to do, I am going to put the both fabric together. When you're putting them together, make sure that both front fabric are facing each other. We are going to stitch around the neckline and the armhole. Take it to your sewing machine, stitch the both armhole with 1 centimeter seam allowance. Depends on the seam allowance that you add on your fabric. When you are stitching around the neckline, measure your seam allowance inside. My seam allowance is 1.5 centimeter. I will start from here and I will end before that 1.5 centimeter. Once I am done with that, I will take my scissor snip around the neckline and the both armhole. Trim a little bit out from the both armhole and neckline. Turn it inside out, take it to my ironing board and give it a good press. I have also stitched my skirt, the side seam of my skirt. I take it to my overlocker and overlock the raw edges. What I'm going to do, I'm going to take it to my sewing machine and stitch a gather stitch thread at the top edge of my skirt, and I will also repeat the same thing with my lining. The way I am going to stitch a gather stitch thread on the skirt, this is my gathered fold. If you have industrial sewing machine, so this will be the gathered fold that you will get. So I'm going to use this gathered fold to stitch my gathers, which is more easier and very faster, and it will just gather the skirt for you even. I will do the same thing with my lining. When I'm using the gathered fold to gather my skirt, I will show you that on my sewing machine. I have stitched the both armhole and the neckline. I turn it inside out, give it a good press. The next thing that you have to do, you are going to put the both side seam of the top dress together. Make fabric facing each other, lining facing each other. You stitch it with your seam allowance. My seam allowance is 1 centimeter. You come down to the other side, side seam of the made fabric facing each other, lining facing each other. You stitch it with your 1 centimeter seam allowance. Once you have done that, turn it inside out, take it to your ironing board and give it a good press. I have stitched the both side seam. This is how it is. Once you have done stitching the both side seam, the next thing that we have to do, we are going to pin our skirt on our top dress. What you are going to do, you open your top dress like this. This is the front of my made fabric. Make sure that you separate the lining, and this is the side seam of my skirt. I will just pin that together, and I will come down to this other side. I will repeat the same process, side seam together, and I will pin it in place. Once you have done doing that, all you have to do is to pin your gathered skirt on your top dress. You also repeat the same process with your lining. I have pinned my both skirt together. This is how it is. I will take it to my sewing machine and I will stitch it with 1.3 centimeter or half an inch. Once I am done stitching, I will take it to my overlocker, overlock the both raw edges, and I will also overlock the center back raw edges. I have stitched my skirt all around. This is how it is, both the lining and the made fabric. This is how it look right now. And I take it to my overlocker. I overlock the raw edges, and I also overlock the center back raw edges. The next thing that you have to do, you are going to pin your invisible zipper at the center back. It doesn't matter the zipper that you are using. When you are pinning your invisible zipper at the center back, first thing that you have to do, you open your zipper. My zipper is very long, so you just flip it like this, and then you pin it all the way down. I have pinned one side of the zipper. So what I'm going to do, I will take my measuring tape from the waistline. I'm going to measure down 10 centimeters. That is where I want my zipper to end. So you place your measuring tape like this from the waistline. You take the measurement 10 centimeters. I'm using this marker, is a red marker. So this is where my 10 centimeter end. I'm just using a different marker to mark that so that you guys can see that. Once you have used your marker to mark that, this is my 10 centimeter. What I usually do, I will thread my needle and I will use hand stitch to stitch it all the way down. And I will repeat the same process on this other side. Before we repeat the same process on this other side, let me first use hand stitch to stitch this together so that I can show you how to have a perfect waistline. The both waistline will be aligned together. So go ahead and use hand stitch to stitch your invisible zipper, and then I will show you how to do that later. I have used hand stitch to stitch the zipper together. So what you are going to do, you're going to zip the zipper. You just zip it like this, and then you turn it over like this. You can see the way I turn it. You take your marker. You're going to mark where the waistline is. You just go ahead and mark where the waistline is, and I will use this other marker so that majority of you can see that. So this is my marker right here. What you are going to do, once you have done that, you open your zipper. Once you open your zipper, you turn it over like this where your marker is. So this is where my marker is right here. I will put it at the waistline, and I will pin that in place, and I will just put about 2 pins to check, make sure that it is even. So once you put 2 pins like this, you go ahead and zip the dress. You can see how it is right now. I have not stitched it yet. You can see it is even right now. So what you are going to do, once you've done it like that, you just go ahead and pin it all the way down. Use hand stitch to stitch it in place, because when I'm stitching, I don't like the needle getting on my way. That is why I usually use hand stitch to stitch my invisible zipper before taking it to my sewing machine and top stitch. So that is what I'm going to do. I have stitched my zipper together. This is how it is, and I remove my hand stitch thread. So what you are going to do, you just zip your dress. You can see the waistline match together. I will just unzip the dress. The next thing that you have to do, you are going to use your lining to cover the raw edges of your dress. So you pick your lining, you turn it over like this. You go ahead and pin it all the way down. Once you have done pinning, take it to your sewing machine and stitch it all the way down to where your stitches end before. And you also come down to this other side. You repeat the same process, turn it over, stitch it all the way down. This is where my stitches end, and this is where I'm going to also end when I'm using the lining to cover the raw edges. Once you have done that, you can use the opportunity to finish stitching the center back and hem your dress. I have put the dress together. This is how it is, and I have used my lining to cover the raw edges of the zipper. This is how it looks, and I finished stitching the center back, and I hem my dress around. So this is how your dress will look once you have done making your dress. The next thing that we have to do, we are going to take the measurement of our bow fabric. Place your measuring tape like this. The width is 13 centimeters. That is your fabric is unfold once you take the measurement. And the length of my fabric is 15 centimeters. And this is the bow tail. I will place my measuring tape like this. I'm going to take a measurement of 32.5 centimeters. So what I'm going to do, I will take my fabric to my ironing board. I am going to iron interfacing on my fabric. Once I am done with that, I will go ahead and stitch it all around. Make sure to leave a gap about 2 centimeters or 2.5 centimeters so that you can turn your fabric inside out. And when you are also stitching your tail, you put them together like this. You can take your scissors and notch the center of your tail bow, or you can just place a pin like this. So what you are going to do, you take it to your sewing machine, you stitch it across and you stitch it all the way down. You leave about 1.5 centimeters. You stitch it across and then you stitch it all the way down. You leave about 1.5 centimeters. Once you have done with that, turn it inside that and I will show you how to put them together. I have stitched my bow fabric and the tail. What you are going to do, you thread your needle. This I just folded into two, so this is the center crease. I will place my needle inside and out, inside and out. Once you have done it like this, you just pull it and fix your bow properly, and then tie it around like this. You can see this is a perfect bow. Then you take your tail. This is the open gap right here. This is where I open it and turn it inside out, and this is the center crease. So what I'm going to do, I will fold this side inside and I will fold this on top of it, and I will pick my bow and I will place it like this in between right there, and I will take my thread and I will just wrap it around. Before I tie a knot, and I will just use my hand to fix the tail properly. Make sure everything is fixed properly like this, and then I will tie a knot at the end. This is how it is right now. Once you have done that, you can see how beautiful that is. The next thing that you have to do, cut a piece of fabric, give it a top stitch so you can see the crease is in between the fabric. So what you are going to do, this is where the crease is, and I will place it around like this, because once I am done stitching, I am going to flip it inside out. You put it around like this. That means the crease is facing up, and then I will take my pin, I will pin that in place, and I will take it to my sewing machine and top stitch. Then I'm going to show you how to turn it inside out. I have top stitched. This is how it is, and this is how it looks. So I am going to turn it inside out. All you have to do, you push it inside like this, and you keep pushing it all around the fabric, the fabric that you use to cover the tray. You keep pushing it inside gradually all around. And once you have done it like this, you take your needle. Maybe if you have a bigger needle, you just use it to push out the rest of the fabric like this. You can see how that is, so that the raw edges is inside the fabric, is not visible. So that is how I usually stitch my bow when I'm making bows. This is how my bow is right now, which I have shown you guys how to use your fabric to cover and turn it inside out. This is how it is. The next thing that you have to do, you pick your dress. This is the dress that we are making today. What you are going to do, you can either place it at the waistline like this. You can either place it at the side of the dress, depends on how you want your dress to look. You can place it at the shoulder like this. So on this dressmaking, I am going to place it like this. So it's going to be on the side of the chest. So I will place it like this, and then I will take a pin and I will secure that in place, and I will take the second pin and I will secure that in place. So what I'm going to do, I will take it to my sewing machine and open inside the bow, and I will just give it a top stitch, and I will come down to this side and I will open inside and I will give it a top stitch. Once I am done stitching, you cannot see the stitches because the stitches is in between this gap right here, so the stitches will be inside. So take it to your sewing machine and top stitch. Once you have done that, your dress is finally ready. This is the final look of our dress, beautiful dress to make step-by-step tutorial. This is the bow. I have stitched it in place and you don't see any stitches visible outside, but the stitches are inside the dress. When you are stitching, make sure that you open your zipper so that you can be able to pass it through. This is how it is. Thank you all so much for watching and have a wonderful day. Bye.